It's not life and death situations.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, the odd thing happens, and
Right.
I've jabbed and poked a few patients in ways they don't like, but
dear God, you committed murder.
Tell that shit I got my diamonds dancing. Brought a bitch up, she another groupie banging. Got the whip up, phones, yeah, we living lavish. Hit the shisha.
Hey. Well,
Hey.
I'm sorry. Welcome to another official episode of the I May Regret This podcast. I'm your host, your sole host, the only host, no matter what anyone says, Kunal Bergotra. I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel Hackidnen. And also in the studio with us, we have our audiovisual intern, Craig. Craig, what's going on, buddy?
Classic Craig.
Anyways, we have one more person in the studio with us today. We have another guest on. And today, our guest is a man that I haven't personally known for very long, but as we've continued to meet more frequently as of recent, whether in person at parties or even over virtual Discord parties, I can certainly start to better understand why people describe him the way they do. Now, allow me to explain what the fuck I just said. Before meeting him for the first time in person, I was told that, I think that was in 2018, December 2018, I was told that he was probably one of the nicest guys I was ever going to interact with. I could confirm by the end of the night that no lies were detected. I quickly started to understand why everyone enjoyed being around this up-and-coming dentist extraordinaire, and really felt like I was starting to get a much clearer picture. However, before we brought him on today, I wanted to make sure I really knew what I was talking about for this very introduction. So I asked some mutual friends what they thought about him and kind of what they gathered of him from knowing him for longer than I have, and I figured I'd share some of those thoughts for all of you who are listening in case you've never met our mystery guest today.
Wow.
The key words, I guess, that I got several times from several people include driven, determined, strong-willed, Saskatoon, and of course, the one that stands above everything else for me, the man who walked in on my brother and Sid grinding on each other in a bedroom with no one else to play witness. Anyways,
God.
Wow.
I think, or at least hope, I've helped you get a better idea as to who our guest is today. It is none other than Mr. Dempsey Wood. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow.
Dempsey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. That was quite the intro. I'm very, very flattered, especially with that background research. I mean, damn, ever since that PowerPoint presentation that we did, I think everyone's up on the research game, eh?
I think everyone's up their game in general.
I think so. That PowerPoint presentation is actually what inspired the idea to give these long-winded introductions.
Oh man, my head is inflated 5 times the size right now. Feeling good.
What we like to do typically on the show, Dempsey, is we pick a topic, and 3 of us or 4 of us or whoever is in here, including Craig, I guess, we all kind of rattle off our own thoughts or stories about the topic of the day. And I want to ask Daniel, actually, if you have any idea what that topic is for us.
Gentlemen, as we are recording this podcast today, we are sitting 1,000+ miles from our esteemed guest. And that is because a couple of years ago, Dempsey made a big decision. A decision that required sacrifice. Dempsey was accepted into medical school far away from his current life. Dempsey could pursue his dreams and be on his way to becoming a dentist, but at the risk of his current lifestyle and embarking on a new journey away from his girlfriend, his family, and his friends. Life throws many twists and turns, and we are here today to discuss these challenges, decisions, sacrifices, and how has it affected our lives and our futures.
Wow.
I think I'd be disrespectful if I didn't clap.
Thank you. That's why it took me 25 minutes, and that's why.
Jeez, you're articulate.
Yeah.
Couldn't put it better, but wow. I mean, yeah, I think you guys chose a great topic. I mean, as soon as I heard of it, I think you kind of targeted me in a way, but in a good way.
Well,
usually talking about this topic.
Usually, how this works is like it really just started between me and Kunal as a way for us to just kind of catch up because we had no real reason to like talk to each other like on a weekly basis unless we like hung out or whatever.
I don't know why that hurt, but it did.
I have like no reason to talk to this fucking guy, right? So no, but like basically, so any guests that we have on, like we just try to think of what's something that like we'd like to talk about with them or like we'd like to ask them, we'd like to catch up about.
Mm.
And like I remember with when we were thinking about you, like that was definitely one of it. Is that I don't know that many people that have been like so able to um be strong-willed enough and in their resolve to just pick up or like drop their current lifestyle and
Yeah.
just embark on a new journey. And I know like I was there from when you were making those decisions and
Yeah.
thinking
It's
about it,
hectic.
so I know it wasn't easy.
Well,
Yeah,
so
for
yeah,
sure, man.
to kind of catapult off that, Daniel's kind of mentioned a couple times that you made a big decision, made some sacrifices. I'm wondering if I can now ask you what he's referring to, what exactly that big move was.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I honestly have to like thinking about this now and really reflecting on it, I think like this is good for me personally to kind of not justify to myself, but just kind of also wrap my head around
Yeah,
why I'm
just
here and like the big picture. Because I mean, I still do struggle in my head every now and then, like think about what if. But at the end of the day, like I am happy with the decision I made. And just to address your question, Kunal, like basically what Daniel's talking about is, I guess 2 years ago now, I was making some pretty big decisions, as Daniel was saying, as to what my next step was in my career and especially academically. I was finishing up my biochem co-op degree. I was spending a lot of time in my lab. I was doing a thesis. I was juggling tons of extracurriculars, trying to keep up with the boys. Um, Probably that was probably one of my priorities, as you guys know. But and I was trying to get into dental school. That was kind of at the top of my mind. That was my big goal, big priority, kind of something that was overarching. That I had been aspiring to go for quite a long time. Actually, like I had always looked up to my dentist, my family dentist, and never had anyone in healthcare actually in my family. So it was kind of a bit unique. Because a lot of kids in
oh
my
interesting.
class, yeah, a lot of kids in my class have people that are like their parents are dentists or a pretty direct connection. So yeah, it just goes to show that how great my dentist was, and she's actually a female as well, which is different from a role model perspective. But she really opened up my eyes as to the huge impact you can make in dentistry, and also just the lifestyle. I mean, it is pretty great, like not just financially, but like convenience wise. You still kind of get the medical aspects of it, but you're not like getting called in at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
Right.
You're
it's
still
not
kind of
life and death situation.
yeah. I mean, ideally, the odd thing happens, and
Right.
I've jabbed and poked a few patients in ways they don't like, but
Dear God, you committed murder.
But only
Yeah.
when they're giving you a hard time, and then just
yeah, but
gives them the old 1-2.
the all 1-2 and maybe knock them out with some sedation and they can keep going.
My God.
Yeah, the beauty of dentistry, right? But
It turns out you're just Dexter, and you've just been like incapacitating all your
God.
patients, hiding them.
Man, like there are some shady dentists out there, sure. And there's been quite a few lawsuits actually, but that's for another day.
Wow, that's another
Have
podcast.
you guys ever seen the movie
Yeah.
Horrible Bosses?
Or I have, yes, honestly.
Right?
Yeah,
There's a
people have
corrupt
brought-
dentist for you right there.
I know. Well, it's just because like you're in a power position, right? And like
Right.
the patient is very vulnerable and exposed, and like yeah, it's not a fun situation, and like people don't like going to the dentist. So yeah, it brings out a lot of emotion and
God.
can be a lot of shit can go wrong essentially. But hey, I'm liking it. I'm happy where I am. Basically 2 years ago, I had an interview at U of T, which would have kind of kept my life more similar to what it was, staying in the GTA, like where my family was, my boys.
Right.
And then I also had an interview at Saskatchewan. I only applied to the 2 schools actually, because
shit, I didn't know.
I didn't apply. I didn't apply to any other school just because I actually only had done like 3 years of school, even though I was in my 4th year of university because I was doing a co-op. So I worked for a lab in a year. And so I was supposed to have 1 more year of school actually after that time to finish up
Oh
my
yeah, it was
degree.
early acceptance.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Damn.
was pretty appreciative and grateful of the opportunity. I got waitlisted at U of T, and then I got in to USask. So that's when I was really being pressed for that decision, like whether I was ready to take that leap.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was really difficult, honestly. Like my girlfriend, I actually had just started dating Fiona.
Yeah.
Started getting pretty serious around that time. So it would have like our relationship was on the line. My family was kind of stressed out about it because I never had been away from home, especially this far. And I didn't know what Saskatchewan was like really. Like, thankfully, I did have a cousin out here, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, she helped me out finding an apartment and stuff and kind of getting settled. But it was still a huge leap into the unknown. And like at the end of the day, like just my strong passion, desire to go for like to achieve my dreams was what pushed me to get here. And I honestly, looking back, I don't regret it. There was a lot of difficulty kind of adjusting and leaving everything in the dust, but I'm happy I'm still staying connected as best as I can with everyone back home. Yeah.
So how
That's
did that?
fucking awesome.
Oh, thanks, man.
How did your infatuation with dentistry start? Was it literally just your family doctor? Like she kind of got you into it somehow?
Yeah, like my family did. I actually, believe it or not, I actually spent. Yeah. I noticed you said medical school. Actually, I'm not
yeah. Okay, wait. Well, that's another thing. Is that I feel like I'm just dumb. I thought a dentistry school was like a subsect of medical school, and that a dentistry school was a medical school.
You know what, Daniel? I'm gonna have to throw shade on you for that. I'm a little disappointed in you, man.
Daniel thought you went into your family doctor for a physical and told you to become a dentist.
Yeah, like I mean, there's a couple different cavities in the body. Like I'm only specified in one. Man. I'm not looking out your behind, just in the front. You know.
Well, I deserve what I deserve. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
No, I respect that. I respect that. I understand because like in Europe and in a couple other places, it is actually a subsect of medicine because like at the end of the day, it is a part of healthcare. But no, it's a separate school. We do take a lot of classes with the med students, but yeah, it is a separate school. But believe it or not, what I was going to say is I actually spent a lot of time at the dentist for the wrong reasons. I had pretty bad oral hygiene actually as a kid, and like I'm not blaming my parents at all. But maybe I am blaming them a little bit. But
they never let me brush.
Yeah, I mean it's largely the blame on me. But I mean I just actually grew up in a single family household. Like it was just my mom, single parent household. It was just my mom, and a lot of times like my mom was like working multiple jobs. It was just my sister and I. So like she wasn't always there to be able to kind of enforce important things.
Yeah, like micromanage.
I micromanage and like shove that toothbrush down my throat, you know.
But it really brush, but
yeah. I mean, maybe that was a different problem.
Yeah, you gotta test the gag reflex, you know, just if you're into that. But yeah, so I actually spent a lot of time in the dental chair myself with my own dental issues, and it made me start to realize like the importance of oral health. And then something actually really big in my life happened related to dentistry. I'm going to open up to you guys a bit. It's a bit of a touchy topic with me, but someone actually passed away in my family related to a dental infection, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, like you would never guess that it. Yeah, you would never guess that it would spread throughout your whole body and have that kind of systemic effect. But yeah, it was actually my grandpa. I was really close to him. He was kind of like my father role model since my dad passed away at a young age. But yeah, he passed away way too early just from a simple dental infection that spread into his bloodstream and put him in septic shock. Yeah, if he had just went to the dentist and got it taken care of, he'd probably still be kicking around. But it really kind of changed my whole mindset and perspective and opened my eyes when I was in early high school.
Wow,
it was a big turning point for me.
Damn.
Yeah. I don't.
Sorry, was this because of something that like he went to a dentist and then got an infection, or you mean like he had an oral infection that he
had? Yeah, so he had like an abscess, like some swelling, an infection in one of his teeth that probably should have just been extracted, like pulled. His tooth should have been pulled out, but he didn't have a chance, I guess, to get to the dentist, or maybe didn't really know the extent of it. And before he knew it, he had like a pretty severe flu, and he already wasn't in the best health before. He had leukemia, but kind of like a dormant, like non-serious version. So once the bacteria from his tooth, like in the infection, got more serious, got into his bloodstream, he already had that reduced immune system. It kind of took over, and yeah, unfortunately, that was it. That was what.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really affected me, like on a personal level, obviously, but at the same time, it kind of served as a driving passion for me to kind of hopefully open people's eyes to the importance of oral health and take it more seriously, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
did you go into school with the idea that you want to be a dentist, or was it just like something that you like kind of admired as a profession, but like didn't really like know if it was exactly for you?
Yeah, like I mean, I at the end of the day, that was on my number one on my list for career options, and I was hoping, like I was hoping to go into dentistry, but I know it is a very competitive field, and I know that there was a good chance I might not get in, and I shouldn't like kind of waste away my life applying for like 5 years in a row and getting rejected. So I did like open myself up to some backup options, and actually my main backup was doing an MBA in business. That was always an interest as well. But dentistry was at the top of my list going into undergrad. I kind of picked and choose my steps according to what the dental schools wanted.
And so
Right.
eventually, from what I understand, so kind of a lot of the stories that you shared so far that kind of uh, allowed that passion to develop for dentistry for you, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
assuming is what played one of the biggest roles in making such a decision of moving.
Oh,
Um,
exactly.
were there any? I mean, you have all of that going for you, and that could be so much to push someone to want to make a decision like that. But aside from the distance of the move, were there any major thoughts that were almost borderline outweighing the inspirational thoughts that were almost keeping you away from the idea, or was it really just the whole distance and like the fear, I guess, of literally picking up your bags and transferring your life over to another province altogether?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think yeah, kind of both things played a factor in the kind of devil on my shoulder saying, oh, not devil, but the kind of I guess devil's advocate on my shoulder saying
Mhm.
like, oh, you should reconsider this. This is a really big move. But at the end of the day, I think the going to a new province actually, like after I came to Saskatchewan from an interview and realized that like it is like a kind of just like another Canadian city. At the end of the day, it's really not that different. There's still basically everything here that there isn't there,
Mhm.
aside from the people. But so that wasn't really holding me back. And I also kind of wanted a bit of adventure to kind of get out of the nest and everything and explore something new.
Yeah.
But it was more so the people, I would say, relationships, my good friends. That was the
Absolutely.
real factor holding me back, and my family. Like I've been really close with my mom and sister throughout my whole life, and they were super supportive of me, and like everyone that was super close to me was super supportive of me going, and that's kind of what allowed me to make that leap.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
So
but
I
no,
know
not easy.
I know Kunal and I think on a previous episode actually we talked about like where would we want to settle down? Would we see ourselves settling down away from home, away from our family, sort of thing? I
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
think I know I definitely said that. You know, I think there's definitely still a lot of room for adventure for me in my life, like in the next little while, where I'm ready to up and go, sort of thing, if
Damn.
the calling is there. But I think in terms of settling down, I don't ever see myself, you know, moving further than the GTA because I think that like just being away from my family just wouldn't make sense. But
Yeah, yeah.
Kunal brought up that you know he'd be down to go to Chicago and kind of just up and leave
Oh, okay.
and start a new life there. So I'm wondering, like, do you see yourself always returning to the GTA in terms
Yeah,
of like to be near your family?
yeah, that's a good question. And I thought about that a lot. Like tons of people here in my class have asked me that, and actually some of my professors have too, because and the people in the dental community here, because they want to have retention in their graduates. They want people that are like
Yeah.
studying about Saskatchewan dentistry, what it's like there to work in Saskatchewan and serve those needs. So that's
Right.
kind of something that I've been considering more, like kind of almost feeling bad if I didn't work here for at least a period of time. But at the end of the
Mm.
day, no, I definitely can't see myself settling like long term anywhere else other than the GTA to be close to my family. Like I owe that to them, especially like yeah, my mom. Like I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without my mom and sister's support. It just like I need to take care of her as she gets old. Like that's a priority for me, and that's something that hold near and dear to my heart. So yeah, I think settling the GTA is my top goal. But that's also like took a influenced my decision to come here, right? Because now that I'm learning about Saskatchewan specific related things, I'm making connections with Saskatchewan and like prairie dentists. It's going to be more difficult to make connections in southern Ontario. So we'll
Right.
see. Maybe I'll start working out here just because of the connections I'm making, and hopefully make my way back there. But the end goal, definitely settle in the GTA. I'm kind of curious though about Kunal's reasoning, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, no, not at
Regarding
all.
to Kunal, I mean, I know you guys have that connection and you grew up there, but are there any particular people or any things that are drawing you there, or just the sense of adventure?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good question actually, because this is also what I was thinking of kind of hearkening into today for the whole big sacrifice thing. Because definitely, especially to the extent of your story, I don't necessarily have anything that I could look back on in my life right now and say that I made that huge decision and kind of sacrificed as much as I did, or as much as you did. I mean, really the biggest thing related to that for me is when my dad got a job transfer from Chicago to have us to literally move our whole family to Canada. And even that felt like I was making such a huge sacrifice, even though I was like 7 years old. And I was like crying and like hugging all my friends goodbye and hugging my second grade teacher goodbye, who I had a major crush on.
Dude, you guys could have been married.
I know, dude. Fuck.
You could have been first, man.
I actually kept up with her. I wouldn't say kept up, but I did stumble across her Facebook not too long ago. Well, a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, whatever. She's happily married. So, anyways,
stumbled upon her, specifically searched her name.
But yeah, even that, like as a little 7-year-old dweeb, felt like such a big thing. Like trying to tell my friends, like, no, I think I'll be back one day, and like we can all hang out again. Like just wait a couple of years, maybe middle school. And obviously, I'm now 21, and that still hasn't happened. So I lied there. But overall, yeah. So a couple episodes, I think it's when we had Sid on, we talked about that, and I said that I think ultimately, at first, the thought was, a couple years back, my thought was that I want to move to Chicago, get the experience living in that city for a couple of years, and then come back. But something kind of hit me. So we've gone down to Chicago the past 2 summers to visit. We have some family that's living there now. So we went down to visit them, and then we have really good family friends who we knew when we lived there, and they've been there ever since, who we still go and visit when we go down there. So we went to go see them the past 2 summers, and both times when we were on our way back, I was like, I found myself in this weird headspace of like, I love Canada and everything that this fucking country has done to like provide for our family and like bring us in like with open arms. I literally just got laid off like earlier this week, and within 2 days had $2,000 direct deposited into my account with like very minimal questions asked. You know what I mean? It's like, but at the same time, like whenever not Chicago, but the USA as a whole has its own shit to figure out. So that's definitely like a more of a down the road plan, like once I'm graduated and a bit more settled down and know what I'm doing with my career. But at that point, I feel like there's this weird passion that I feel like for Chicago for some reason. And just when I'm in the city, like this overwhelming sense of like home. Like I feel like I'm home when I'm there.
Interesting.
And I know it's strange because it's not like I lived there for like 20 years and moved. Like I was there for 7 years, and I mean, majority of those years I was too young and stupid to even collect memories, and I left. So, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just like constantly visiting and like being a fan of all Chicago sports and shit like that.
I was gonna ask about that. You're a fan of the Bulls, eh?
Bulls, Bears,
fuck,
yeah,
dude.
oh yeah. So it's like, yeah, I know that's fine. That's a problem. That's a problem of its own. But
no.
It's all shit like that where it's like, and maybe this is just like a young, weird, inspired thought that I'm having, but the more I've been thinking about it, it's like I definitely see myself wanting to go and settle down there for good. Like this is where I would be happy, like finishing my life out. Like it's just such a beautiful city. And obviously under a proper country, a properly run country, it can be a beautiful attraction in itself there too.
Oh, most definitely.
And so I know my family also, like my parents in general, still would be more than open and welcome to be going back to the States. And they always say, like, if you move back, bring us with you. And so, like, I know that I could still have my family with me too if they made that move, right? So it's just like there's so many things. Leave Encore and Craig behind, but
Craig.
But it's like
you can bring Craig. You can bring Craig.
No, Craig can stay with Encore. I feel bad leaving him with nothing.
Oh, okay, true.
But it's just like I don't know. I feel like ultimately I want to be able to make a huge move like that. I also feel like that would just be a huge defining move for me as a person to say this is who I am now. This is what I've accepted to be as literally the rest of my life. Like I'm making this move to establish I'm comfortable with my career and comfortable with where I am in my life, and this is where I'm going to be moving forward.
Wow.
And so again, I'm fully open to the idea that might change down the road, but for now and for the past, I would say 2 years, I've been having this thought of like, ultimately, that's the big play that I want to make.
That's amazing, man. Honestly, I totally hear you out on that. And just after my short visit to Chicago, when I went to Lollapalooza with Sid.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, Fiona, I can totally see the attraction there. Like it's a really cool city, and it's like it offers a ton of diversity. Like, I mean, I saw the kind of I don't know if it's the north side and south side or how they split it up, but like just the different aspects of things they're gonna offer there with the city, like the business kind of side of things. You have the water there,
right?
I don't know, very cool.
Definitely. And so, fun fact, actually, I was in Chicago at that time when you guys were there for Lollapalooza.
Oh, shit.
So Sid always likes to. So we were in the city visiting the relatives first, and then when you guys came, we went down to the suburbs a bit further from the city when you guys were there.
That's where we were too.
Right. So Sid always kind of likes to give me shit. Like just like jokingly banter, like with like, oh, whatever, Chicago's trash. There was your guys' first night there. He comes home and he texts me right away. He was like, dude, I fucking love Chicago. I take it all back. I was like, let's go. Like, I don't know, it's just the impact that the city has on me, and like seeing the impact that the city has on other people. It's like, fuck, like this is where I belong. Like this is where I need to be.
No, I see.
So
man.
definitely, that's definitely been a thought I've been playing around with. But ideally, that's kind of where I end things off. And yeah, I'll still have some family there too. I'll bring my family with me. I still have some family friends there. There's still my grade 2 teacher there that might be available at the time.
Maybe if she hears that you're moving,
right?
Yeah, she might move to Toronto, like just around the same time.
That would be so fucked up.
Oh man.
But yeah, definitely.
We can still podcast though, right?
So, anyways, Daniel, what's your big? Daniel, what's your? But yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for asking that, because that's something I wanted to talk about, and it's literally just having these types of moments and being able to convey that thought out loud, and not just kind of throw it around in my own head, and getting other people's opinions and the positivity that you guys are literally showing right now for that idea. That's the type of thing I need to be like, okay, well, maybe this isn't so batshit crazy then to think about.
Yeah, no, I totally support that. The reflection is really important. It's something I've been valuing more and more as I get older. As well, as opposed to just jumping into things with minimal thought and reflection.
Right.
I'm a victim of, but all right, Daniel.
Daniel, what have we got?
Actually, it's interesting that you say that, because I think what I was going to talk about in this episode is that, like, I really love hearing stories like this, because I think the way I grew up, I'm so naturally the antithesis of that, where I plan like so rigorously for things, and I'm so how do I say this, like, it needs to be so safe before I make a decision. I need to know that everything's going to be safe, and like I normally make decisions on how comfortable it would be for me. So like even when I went to school, which is probably like when I went to McMaster and moved away from home, that was probably the biggest change in my life, and I experienced so much like personal growth from that. But at the same time too, I went to a school where there's still a bunch of my friends I knew from high school. My roommate was my best friend from high school. So there just wasn't a lot of big changes that I had to make for myself. And I remember in one of my final years at school, I was actually living on my own for the first time, where I didn't know anyone else in my house, and I wasn't living near my parents or anything like that. And every day was just making decisions for myself, and not really taking into account anybody else around me in my life. And I actually experienced so much like joy from just having that individuality and like being able to just make my decisions, be responsible for myself, that now I crave that so much that now I kind of wish I had made a lot more of those decisions like in the past, and how much I could have grown from that. So I mean, for me, I think I also talked about this on the podcast. I think it definitely does sound really exciting to move to a new city, like away from everything, and kind of be like scared in a good way. But I don't really have a need to do that. Like, I feel like I wouldn't just move to LA for no reason and just start a new life. Like, there would have to be some sort of like reason to do it. So I feel like for me, the next step is to like go to Toronto, where I'm still getting that city environment where it's like fun and exciting and there's things to do. And I'm on my own doing my own thing. But like I still have those people like available to me every once in a while where I can go back and see my parents. I can go back, see some of my friends.
Yeah, that blanket kind of like the kind of blanket of protection. I see you. I wish see that's something I do miss. I wish I had that kind of like support network within reach. I mean, as much as social media and connecting online can be of value these days, at the end of the day, like just being close and being with family really has served so much to a person.
Yeah, because even as we're doing this and the whole virus situation, like we're all still really connected and talking a lot, but I think everyone generally feels that there's still something missing. Like there is just something to being in person with each other. Makes it special for whatever reason. And it's really just not the same talking to a computer screen, especially when your friends won't FaceTime you because their internet connection.
Listen. We had several technical issues behind this.
Actually, it was mainly my fault as well because I was echoing, but I just wanted to throw that.
So, Daniel, my question for you then would be, since we're on the topic of like these big sacrifice decisions, and you and I don't really have one to speak of, but we both, or at least I have one that I plan on making or would like to make. You were kind of referring to the fact that, or alluding to the fact that you like to be a lot more planned and calculated with your moves, and so making such a huge sacrifice move like that just doesn't seem to be in the cards right now, and that makes total sense. So my question for you then would be, what would it take for you? Like, obviously, if you feel like, oh, a huge opportunity just came up, like an amazing career opportunity in LA, I'm going to pick up my bags and go. That's one thing. But what do you think it would take, or at what point in your life do you think you might reach where you are going to be actually possibly open to just making a big sacrifice decision like that with no like calculated reason behind it, no planning went behind it? It's not like you got some opportunity and you have like a huge concrete reason. It's almost just out of thin air, like mine, like I want to move to Chicago. Do you think there's something like that's in your future possibly? Like maybe at a certain point or something that could happen that would spark that?
Well, I don't know. I feel that in terms of that decision making, like I'm on one end of a spectrum where I'm a lot more like I need a lot more security in the decisions I make, and I'm pushing to expand out of that. But I guess the reason I would never do something like that is because it just seems like I'm just jumping to the other end of the spectrum for no reason. Whereas you really want to be in the middle ground, right? Like you want to have, thoughtful decisions that are gonna bring positivity in your life for whatever reason. But like, you also need to be willing to take risk and sacrifices to make those decisions. So I think it's just got to be in the middle ground somewhere, and that's why I think going to Toronto is a good next step for me, because it's somewhere in the middle ground of starting, like dropping what I have here, because I'm really comfortable. I'm living with my parents. I'm stacking up the money. You know what I mean. I'm comfortable living with my parents, and I'm getting fed like as much as I could do everything on my own. Like I'm still very supported,
right?
But so like leaving all that behind still takes some level of sacrifice, and I'm going to be away from some of my friends, and things are going to be less available, and I'm going to have to do a lot of things on my own. But it's not moving to a different country, which I feel like is on another end of the spectrum, which I feel like I'd have to be pulled there for something, a career opportunity, like a love interest, like something would have to like really kick my butt into make me going over there.
What if it's even a situation as like, I mean, is there a city that's not Toronto that you feel just naturally drawn to, or you feel maybe just like borderline infatuated with, and like, oh fuck, living there must be so awesome, or something like that?
Yeah, definitely LA. When I went to LA in February, I was thinking like, wow, this is just like a young person's dream, essentially.
Right.
Like even just like seeing the people there, and just seeing like one person walk by, like I could just tell that they're like they have this certain lifestyle, and they get up and do this every day, and it's
much.
Like, wow,
yeah,
that would be incredible to live this sort of lifestyle,
So,
but then again, though, I don't see myself settling down in LA. So
what if you're working for a company at some point and they have you're already working for a company like here in Toronto or in Ontario, and they have like a separate branch off in LA, and if you want to fully have the option to relocate there, would you do it?
Even for like a year,
Um,
let's say.
Even for like a year
Yeah.
or two.
If it was a year or two, I'd 100% do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Okay. So there you
Exactly.
go. That would be a big sacrifice play at the end of the day.
Yeah, I guess so. But but that's what I mean. The security is there. Is that I have a job lined up for me. I'm not like, you know what I mean. There's something to connect the steps there.
Okay.
Okay. I see you.
Yeah, I actually think it takes the pressure off for the fact that it's even temporary. If it's a new career opportunity and I'm gonna be some sort of like manager in LA and like they need me there,
Yeah.
it's almost like it almost makes the decision even harder because then it's like it's more permanent, right?
It's like a co-op term. It's like you feel comfortable in a co-op term because you know even if you hate it, there's an end date. You'll be done at some
Yeah,
point.
totally.
Okay. Well, I don't know if there was any other major sacrifice type story or decision or anything like that you had, Dempsey, but I think Daniel and we pretty much peaked out there with our plans or potential sacrifice plays we might make down the road.
No. I really appreciate you guys opening up.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I got to know you guys a bit more, and especially, I mean, I look forward to connecting with you more. But something like this is a perfect way to kind of get a peek inside who the real Kunal is. You know?
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Behind all the bits, who's the real Kunal?
But on an aside, actually, there was one thing I wanted to say, and like, I hope this isn't too sensitive or touchy of a topic, Daniel. But
Yeah.
the one time where I don't think I could have seen you making like a drastic decision, but the one time where I actually think I saw you like kind of something that made you a bit vulnerable and maybe willing to make some sort of decision or like it kind of just changed your perspective a lot, I think was when you had a love interest that kind of was being pulled away and going somewhere else in another part of the country. I mean, I knew that you weren't going to do anything drastic, but it was really interesting to see kind of how you grew from that. I think it really opened up your perspective kind of, even though like, you didn't end up making a big move in your life, I think it really kind of opened up your mind in that way as if you did.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually a great point. Is that during that time, it probably is the first time ever that I did consider like because I actually talked about my past relationship on the last episode, but it was when she moved to Ottawa, it was the first time where I actually considered it, which was, am I going to move to Ottawa and try and get a job there?
Like the thought was there, right?
Yeah,
I
did look into it for sure.
Wow.
It was like a serious thought. So I guess, yeah, it was one of the first times.
Holy fuck! Yeah, that was a great point, Dempsey. Holy shit!
Yeah, sorry. It's just interesting to see like what different types of things for people will kind of open them up and make them kind of vulnerable and willing to make those kinds of sacrifices. Like everyone kind of has their own things that draw them in, and that's certainly one that would be for me as well, like love interest.
Right.
Depending on how you value it, right, and how
That's
important it is to you.
Well, a question for you, because I remember back when this was happening was essentially like it was sort of our relationships were sort of turning long distance adjacently, right? Like she was going to Ottawa for me, and then you were going to Saskatoon. So I know like part of that, like I went to you a few times, was like, yo man, how are you keeping this together, sort of thing, right? It didn't ultimately work out for me. But I mean, in the end, it wasn't because of the long distance. It was more of a me thing. But I'm wondering, like, how exactly, like, how much of a struggle was that, and how exactly did you guys like keep it?
Man.
You know what I mean? Like, keep the relationship itself like flourishing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be straight up with you right away. Like, it definitely was not flourishing. Unfortunately, it was really tough, man. Like I'm not always a super emotional guy, but like I definitely had quite a few moments where I got pretty emotional and like I was starting to feel a bit lonely in a way. It was my first year out here in Sask, and I was living by myself, my own apartment. Thankfully, I was starting to make some friends in my class, but like my girlfriend meant so much to me, and I really did see like my future with her, and that was what was tying me to the relationship and wanting like to do whatever I possibly could to keep it alive and flourishing. But no, it was really difficult, man. Because the main thing for me is that, like, my priority was to make sure she was happy, but I didn't want to be drawing her back in any way. I didn't want to be holding her back. So like that was kind of what was the dilemma for me. Like I was almost considering ending the relationship for her so that I'm not holding her back.
Right.
It was just it was really difficult, man. But thankfully, somehow we made it out, and better than ever. Honestly, like it made our relationship a lot stronger.
Yeah, if you've been through that,
exactly. If you can survive that, then you can survive anything. And now, like,
pretty well.
we value our time so much more together.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It means a lot. And like it's funny because like now she's literally like 10 feet away from me, smiling at me, and I've been spending like every day with her in isolation. So it's just funny how things change. I mean, you always have to have something to look forward to. That was kind of the main thing that kept us going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that question though, man.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I definitely relate to that. That like the sort of guilt aspect. I literally talked about in the last episode, the sort of guilt aspect, and like the you're thinking about the other person so much that it takes. I know firsthand that it takes so much energy, and for me over time, like it just started to build up and build up and build up, and I knew like she was in a similar position of you, as in a completely new environment, feeling lonely, like not a lot of good friends, because if there's any friends, it's new, and the work itself is stressful and new. I was just trying to be this pillar of support that I eventually just couldn't be after what because I was just doing it all for her, and I was just kind of picking myself apart in a way.
And I think that's the complex thing too with this whole topic of sacrifice decisions and big plays and all that is like, I mean, the answer I can give, or the answer that I did give is definitely something that I've been pondering, and it might happen. But the boring answer would be I have no idea. We're gonna have to wait and see, because realistically, something might come along down the road that no one could have planned for. I could not have told you about happening today, where all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, this person or this job or whatever it is going to make me drop this idea to Chicago, and I'm staying my ass in Toronto for the rest of my life. Like, really, you have no idea.
It is crazy, because maybe you just have to be in a place where you're open to have those things happen to you. But I remember when I was with my girlfriend at the time, my ex, I never wanted to do long distance at all, and I knew from a really early point that she had got accepted to Ottawa and she was going to go there eventually, and it was like a few months down the line. And this whole time in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking like, wow, I really like this girl, but like there's just no way I'm doing that. Like, I'm not going to do that. I definitely don't want a long distance. I don't want it. And then like it just got to the point where I'm just like, holy shit, like I'm actually going to do a long distance. I can't leave her. I fucking love her. Like completely changed. So I guess those things happen anyways, like no matter how much you plan for it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it just really goes to show how like close things can get to your heart, I guess, in the day, and how it really takes hold of you. Whether you like it or not, it changes your values. But the big question for me, like when I was making this big sacrifice, was like who am I living for? Like myself, or like for others? Like if I had stayed home, I mean, sure, I would have been happy because I was close to everyone and with my friends, and I guess still at Mac, but I would have always been itching, saying like what if I did take this? Like it would have just taken over my mind. And I'm really happy.
You know what, that takes a lot of courage too. And I remember that moment because it was one of there's been a bunch of cases like that in my life from people close to me where they've had to make decisions for their own life, and it kind of got in the way of whatever relationship I had with them. But I think that was really important for me to experience that firsthand, of like one of my good friends putting himself first and making his sacrifices, because having that relationship that we had, where it's all we're all boys and we all just chill together, like as much as that's fun, it's not a sustainable thing going forward. So it's nothing to make decisions upon, right? Like it's comfortable in the short term, but long term, like we all have our own lives to live, and we all have our own goals and dreams, and we want families and yada yada. So life's going to separate us one way or another, as much as it sucks. So there's no reason to be like, I'm away from my boys, I can't chill with them. If there's something really important that gets in the way of that.
And I mean, honestly speaking, like that's honestly what I wanted to even like commend you for Dempsey's, because again, I've thankfully never been in this position, because I just don't know how I'd fucking handle it or how I'd react. But like, you've heard of so many cases where people try these moves and it just doesn't work out. And when they reflect on it, they lost some form of a major relationship, or it just didn't work out for them career-wise or whatever. And they look back on it with regret. But for you to be able to sit here and tell us that, yeah, this was a huge decision for me. Obviously, like, you were passionate about dentistry and all that, but you were still worried. And it was hard for you in that first year, but you still made it work with your major relationships. You still made it work career-wise, and looking back on it, you have no regrets. Like, that's fucking awesome, because it doesn't always work out that well, and that's a huge sign of just your character and how driven you are to be able to make something like that work. So that's fucking awesome.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. That's I'm flattered. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, for other people in a similar situation, it takes a lot of thought, but don't hold yourself back, like, don't doubt yourself. Everyone's, like, at the end of the day, I think everyone can be capable. It just matters how bad you want it, really.
Yeah. And I guess too, the fact that you left so much behind, it's a constant reminder that like, no, I sacrificed so much for this, I'm not gonna fuck it up,
Exactly. And like, I'm making my family proud, and doing well in dental school, like, academically, and checking back from the parents, letting them know that I'm doing well, and like, doing this all for them at the end of the day. And awesome. Yeah, it's all paying off, thankfully.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And I'm also still, most importantly, close to the boys. I mean, the fact that you guys invited me to the podcast, I mean,
absolutely,
really nice of you guys. And no, I never want to lose our connections. Like, I mean, at Mac will always be my home at the end of the day, and like, the friendships I made there, I think, because of all the fucked up things we've done together, we'll stay fortified. For time to come.
Like,
all those tip to tip. Yeah, all those tip to tip moments,
Yeah, no, of course. But for real, thank you so much for taking the time out to be able to come on today. Like, this was awesome.
Fantastic, man. Thank you.
A huge reason, and I think Daniel and I say it borderline every episode, but it's such a big reason that we want to do this is just to be able to catch up with people that we don't normally get to talk to. And that especially applies for me and you, because of how little we've really gotten to know each other. Thankfully, a lot more as of recent, but prior to that, we hadn't really spoken, and I just knew you as being one of Uncle's friends. So again, thank you so much for coming on and allowing me to have this conversation with you and get to know you a bit better.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on. I love what you guys are doing. And I hope to tune in on all your future episodes too.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Of course.
Yeah.
Craig, once again, thank you for joining. I'm assuming you're not going to say anything, so I'm just not going to give you the window. I guess we will see you when we see you next for the next official episode of the I May Regret This podcast. Woo!
I don't wanna see you pull up, it's a hectic scene. I don't wanna see you, me and Govi on the beat. What you mean? We gon' win. We be zooming through the cities on the west side, yeah. Rest in peace to this beat, not tryna flex. RKO to the rest,